Sathyabama Institute of Science and Technology. Sathyabama Institute of Science and Technology.
Hello everyone, this is Preethy Jemima, working as an assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering from Sathyabama Institute of Science and Technology. Today we are going to see the topic pattern in C program. What is pattern? Pattern problem in C is nothing but a program that is used to display different patterns by using symbols, numbers and characters. Pattern problem is a very interesting topic in this C programming. We can also display different shapes like rhombus, triangles, stars, pyramids here. We can also display this design patterns such as Pascal's triangle, pyramid patterns, star patterns and Floyd patterns as well. Character output in C language. Here, the star and the spaces play a vital role in designing a pattern. The strategy behind this is placing the character inside the loops that is used to make a very specific pattern. So here some of the patterns are displayed. Here the first one you can see it is a triangle and the next one is nothing but a program in C to print the hollow number diamond pattern. So you may think that we are able to print only patterns using star. Your answer is no. We can also print patterns by using alphabets as well. Implementing patterns in C language. The first one is conditional statements. Why am I dealing with conditional statements? Specific knowledge behind this patterns is two things only. First one is if else and second one is for loops. That is looping statements. If you are confident with if else and looping statements, you are able to print a pattern in C program. So we can have an overlook of this if else statement first. So see here, this is if else. What is if? If is followed with a condition. Whenever we are given a condition, we come up with only two outputs. One is true and another one is false. So here the condition should be true, then only you are allowed to enter into the block. That is, you are allowed to execute the statements within the if block. Suppose your condition is false, you are directed towards the else block. You can also find a flow chart for this. You know what is a flow chart. Here we will start and stop it. In between is your flow. Here the diamond symbol represents the if condition and the if condition is true means it is allowed to enter into the statement of block. Suppose it is false means you are directed towards the else statement. Next comes the looping structures. Under looping we will be seeing about for loops. There are many loops available, while loop and do while. The type of for loop is nothing but a nested for loop. So what is for loop? Why do we run behind the for loop? So for loop is nothing but whenever you are asked to execute a certain set of statements again and again, that is repetition, you run behind this for loop. The another name is nothing but iteration of a certain set of codes. Okay, this for loop comes with three compartments. The first one you call it as initialization and the second one is condition and the third one is updation. What is updation? Updation is nothing but related with the increment or the decrement. So first one, initialization. Whom should we initialize? So initialization is nothing but related with the counter variable that is closely associated with the updation part. So condition, a variable will be involved in it. You call it as a counter variable. So before going to the condition, in this for loop, only one time execution is done, whom you call it as initialization. That is, we start the for loop with the initialization that will be executed only once. Then the condition. As we all know that if our condition is true only, we are allowed to enter into the for loop. Okay, so initialization is done. So second is my condition. My condition is true means you can see the third one is directed towards my for loop, that is, it is allowing me to enter into the body of the for loop. Once the body of the statements get executed, where is your control flow? Your control flow is directed towards the updation only. Updation is nothing but increment or decrement. Okay, how long will this updation will happen? Updation is again related with your counter variable of your initialization part. until the condition fails or until the point of termination, this loop will get executed. Consider that you want to execute a set of codes for 5 times, means the 5 times after the updation it will push you towards the point of termination. So if the condition or the termination point is not available, what will happen? The loop will run for infinite times. For that purpose only we have this condition part. So you can see the flow chart for it. We started with the start and we will be having a stop obviously, and initialization is nothing but the counter variable which is getting initialized only once, and then comes the condition. If it is true, you are allowed to enter into the for loop body, and then followed with that of the updation, that is increment or decrement again and again. Suppose your condition is failed, means you are directed towards the point of termination. So then is the while loop. So what is while loop? Another name of while loop is nothing but entry controlled loop. Why do you call it as an entry controlled loop? During the entry itself we have a condition. Here you can feel that the absence of the initialization part. You can also notice that the updation will be found within the while body. So see here, while followed with condition. So who is present means number 1 is denoting that initialization should be present before the while loop itself. So if the condition is true, I am allowed inside my loop body. After my statement of blocks get executed, I am allowed for updation. After my updation, again I am redirected to the condition. So the meaning is, whenever my condition is true, then only I am allowed inside my loop body. This working you call it as while loop. Next comes the nested for loop. This works as the same like your for loop, but here you can find a very interesting thing. Already we have discussed for loop. Here you can find 2 for loops. So see this is our syntax. Here for loop, the same 3 compartments will be available. Inside a for loop you can find another one for loop. That one you call it as nested for loop. So your question can be, how long will this for loop runs? So first the process, that is the workflow, goes in this way. If the outer for loops initialization happens first, then goes with the condition. If my condition is true, means it will go with the inner for loop. Inner for loop, again one initialization happens and checks the condition and allows you to enter into the inner for loop. So here you can see that the inner for loop is repeated for each iteration of the outer for loop. So why are we using this nested for loop? Whenever we are in need of matrix number printing or alphabet printing, we make use of for loops, that is nested for loops. So nested for loops, you can have 2 initializations and they are meant for rows and columns. Matrix is nothing but a combination of rows and columns. We go with the outer for loop is related with one counter variable and inner for loop is related with another counter variable. So here is a example program for printing a left half pyramid pattern of C in star patterns. Okay. So see here, we started with the very first line is nothing but, you know, hash include stdio.h is a standard input output. It is a header file. Then comes the main function. So int main, int is the data type. So it will have a return. So that is the reason I have mentioned return 0. So int rows is equal to 5. So first see this output. So you can see that it is nothing but a 5 cross 5 matrix. As we have already discussed, in this 5 cross 5 matrix, the left side is only forming a pyramid and the right half you can see that it has been filled with empty spaces. Okay. So int I is equal to 0. This is what I told you. First one is the initialization. So first for loop is my outer for loop. So I less than rows. So rows will be replaced with 5. Then comes the updation part. So first this for loop, the condition it will check. My condition is true. So I am allowed to enter into the inner for loop. So inner for loop, I have a different counter variable j. So j, then again it is checking with the condition j less than or equal to I. So here j is equal to 0 and I is also equal to 0. So 0 is equal to 0. So I am allowed to enter into my inner for loop. So here I have a printf statement. Printf statement, I have a character, that is a star I have. That one you can also call it as asterisk symbol. So this symbol will be used to print the first one. So after this printing J++, my inner loop is getting updated. J++ means J was initially 0. It is getting incremented. So J will be now what? 1. So 1 means again it will go and check the condition. 1 is less than or equal to 0. Condition is failed. Condition is failed means I am allowed to come out of my inner for loop. Once I come out of my inner for loop, I can find a printf statement new line. So initially my cursor was here. After this new line, I was coming to the second row. Okay. So here, from here my control flow will be directed to my outer for loops updation I++. I was initially 0. Now I is now incremented. So I is 1. So now it will check 1 is less than rows. Rows will be replaced with 5. So 1 less than 5 means condition is true. Again I am allowed inside my inner for loop. So I will go inside and check whether J is 0, 0 less than or equal to 1. 0 is always less than 1. So my condition is true. I will print 1 star. So where it will get printed? In my second row, first star will be printed. So after this, I will go just directly and increment my J, that is J++. Now J will become incremented with 1. So it will again check 1 is less than or equal to 1. Again it is true. So it is true means the second star will be printed. After this, again J will get updated, that is J++, J will become 2. So 2 is less than or equal to 1. Now the condition fails. So when the condition fails means it will come out and it will initiate a new line. Now my cursor will be standing here. So like this, if the loop will run for 2 more steps and the entire pattern will be displayed. This is how you will be able to display the different patterns. You can also increase the size of the patterns by depending upon the row size available. Here you can find another one program, that is C program to print alphabet pyramid pattern. What we saw in the last program is the star. So instead of asterisks, you are just replacing it with the alphabets. So alphabets, A is an alphabet. A's equivalent ASCII code is 65. So the logic will not differ. Instead of printing the asterisks, I am going to just print the ASCII codes and increment it depending upon my inner for loop. So here the same program. So row is 5 only. Why? Because it is a 5 cross 5 matrix. I have 2 for loops, outer for loop, inner for loop. I is equal to 0, I less than rows. So rows will be replaced with 5, I++. Then I will be allowed inside, that is J, another loop. J less than or equal to I. None of the concept has changed. Only one thing we are making as a change, that is our printing. So here you can notice percentage C. What is percentage C? Percentage C is nothing but our format specifier. For what we use format specifier? For character printing, we will be running behind the format specifier of percentage C. So 65 represents whom I told you? A character. That is A character's equivalent ASCII code is 65. So first time when this loop executes, J will be 0. So first time I need only A to be printed. So A to be printed means A's equivalent is 65. So 65 plus 0. J will be replaced with 0. So who will be printed? A will be printed. So next time J++ will happen. J++ is 1. So 1 less than or equal to I. I is nothing but what? 0. 1 is less than or equal to 0 means the condition is false. It will come outside, printf, a new line. So now my cursor will be standing in the second row. So I will just update I++. I++ means I is incremented to 1 now. So 1, so it will go and replace J is what? 0 less than or equal to 1. Obviously 0 is less than 1. So it will enter inside and first time it will print J value is what? 0. So 65 it will be replaced with the alphabet. A will be printed. Then it will get incremented. J will get incremented, which is nothing but what? J is equal to 1 now. So 1 is less than or equal to 1. Condition is true. So now I have to print B. How B will be printed? 65 plus 1. 66 is the ASCII code for the character B. So, B will also be printed. Again the inner loop J will get incremented. So, now J value is what? 2. So, it will go and check 2 less than or equal to 1. Condition is false. It will come out. So, it will print a new line. So, now my cursor will be standing in the third row. Simultaneously, the same execution repeats again and again until this outer for loops condition fails. That is 5 times it will run, as it is a 5 cross 5 matrix, as I have given the input for rows is equal to 5. So, this is a small example for printing the half pyramid patterns using a star as well as using alphabets. Thank you.